I appreciate you taking the time
Mhm.
here. If you just wanted to talk about just basically how your job has changed since
Mhm.
the the whole coronavirus thing came out, and just kind of how it's you've had to adjust in different
Mhm.
ways. And I know a lot of people are working from home a lot more, and so
Yeah.
just as far as your job goes, kind of the different things you've had to do, and having to get creative and all that
Mhm.
with
Well, obviously, I'm not at the office right now. I'm working from home. I mean, if this hadn't happened, I wouldn't be sitting on the sofa with my cats right now. I'd be at the office. But the way it's kind of changed is our station has kind of approached it differently. My boss didn't want to put the sports reporters on news because a lot of sports reporters were just put on news because there's no sports. You still want to make yourself useful to the news department, so you get put on news. Well, our boss thankfully did not want to confuse the viewer, so we're still doing sports, but that did require us to get pretty creative because unfortunately, since we were just bought out by a different company, things are kind of crazy right now as it is, and we don't really have the tools we need yet to have a bunch of people working remotely. Like our station only has 4 laptops for however many reporters and photographers and anchors. And so unless they sent me home with a desktop computer, I don't have access to the editing software. And granted, I could edit an iMovie on my iPad or on my computer. I bought it. It's a 2012 MacBook Pro. So I feel like if I do anything heavy, hardcore editing on it, the thing will crash and never turn back on. Because like I've been putting off buying a new one for a long time.
hmm
But so it's just like we've kind of had to think out of the box in terms of how are we gonna like create content that people care about when a lot of reporters have still been able to like go out and do packages and stuff. And I have my camera and stuff here. It's just when I put the chip in my laptop can't read the way the chips record in our cameras. So my camera serves me no use. So everything I do, I use my phone. I ordered a ring light. And I just kind of started brainstorming. I was like, I don't want to be sitting at home. They had us helping with digital at first. But since we're going through a merger, we have kind of too many employees. We're merging 2 news departments. And basically, they're providing content, like similar content for every newscast. So it's like you have twice as many reporters as you did formerly for the same product. So they didn't need us in the news department. They don't need us in digital. It's like I don't want to just be sitting at home doing nothing all the time. So I came up with every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we do a thing called Sofa Sports. I structure out a show. It's kind of a podcast style Facebook Live show where we have 3 major topics, and then we have quarantine quick hits, which are just like quick questions like this or this, just kind of fun stuff just to engage the viewer. And I post them on Twitter beforehand, have people vote, and then share them on the show. And that's kind of served as when there's really not much content going on, kind of milked what content there is for us because we just anything that's going on. Like say today the MLB came out with a plan or is coming out with a plan to try to return to play. That'll probably be one of our topics, and we'll just like kind of go over hypotheticals with that situation.
hmm
So it's just creating content like that. And then when we do sportscasts, like when something big enough happens, like during the NFL draft, they wanted us to have actual newscasts. So it's like, how can we have a newscast from home when I don't have the equipment I need? I don't have a camera. I don't have a photographer. Like they could send a photographer over here and have me do a live newscast, but they have other needs for those photographers because news tends to prevail sports. So it's like, okay, so I ordered a ring light off of Facebook. I set up my phone on the ring light. I pre-record a sports cast. I send it to my co-anchor or my weekend sports guy. He has not Final Cut, the Premiere, his Premiere on his laptop. He edits together a sports cast on his laptop, pulling video from like different places online, and then sends it to the station, and that's how we send in our sports casts. So it's like we're using all of our personal equipment, which is unfortunate, but at the same time, it's just like I'd rather be doing that than not doing anything and not feeling like I'm useful. So at the same time, you want to prove your worth because there's so many companies that are doing furloughs and you don't want to get furloughed. So that's kind of, it's changed drastically because like a normal day for me would be going into the office at 2 p.m. news meeting, going out and shooting whatever needs to be shot for the day or having my weekend guy do it, putting together a newscast for 6 and 10. So obviously it's changed a lot because I went into the office for the NFL draft and that was it. I've not gone into the office since March otherwise.
As far as the sports shows go too, like y'all haven't been able to do them on like your normal everyday, like having a sports segment. That hasn't really been.
No, we've kind of we kind of changed our mindset to there's really not enough sports content to put out
Yeah.
a sports show every day.
Mhm.
Like even sometimes when we're doing our Sofa Sports on Monday, it's like, what is there to talk about today? Nothing happened this weekend. We can't talk about the MJ documentary again. Like
Yeah.
what
Right.
is there to talk about? And it's just kind of like coming up with stuff out of thin air. So it's almost better because I really like I don't want to just be talking about stuff that's not important or that doesn't really need to be. I want to only be sharing pertinent sports information.
Totally.
So yeah, it's changed. We try to at least provide some type of content at least 5 days a week. So we try to, whether that be in Facebook Live version or an actual show. And we do still, since a lot of what we cover down here is high school sports and the seniors had their season completely cut off, we do a senior spotlight on Tuesdays and Fridays as well. So my weekend guy will get in touch with a senior and we'll just have a senior that we spotlight on those days just to kind of put them on the news and hopefully give them something to be happy about when their senior year was cut to an end.
Yeah, that was I was actually going to ask about if y'all had been doing like profiling local seniors and stuff and all that about to graduate. But I'm sure you've probably been using Zoom quite a bit. I mean,
oh yeah. Just about everything we've done has been Zoom interviews. I mean, I've done a couple live shots, but it's like nobody wants to interview in the live shot. So, and like, I don't really want to be in because my boss sent me home pretty prematurely because I do have asthma and she didn't want to like risk me getting it because I have asthma and I live alone. It'd be harder because I don't have anybody that could take care of me. But I mean, most of the interviews we do now are Zoom, and it's hard to make it interesting. Oh, on Wednesdays, I should say, in order to make it more our Sofa Sports more interactive, we bring on like a coach or a senior or something to just kind of talk, like chat about what's been going on with them, or like we've had a couple coach hirings, so we'll bring on the new coach to introduce a coach and stuff like that.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah, for like the quarantine quick hits and stuff like that. Do y'all do that? Like based off local sports stuff, or is it more like national sports headline?
We kind of do both. It just depends on what's happening. I mean, what people like talking about most around here is national sports. I mean, people like high school sports, but our market is so spread out. Like if I'm talking about McAllen, nobody in Brownsville 2 hours away cares about that. So, and like I mean, the kind of splitting the coverage is hard too because all the schools are 6A down here. It's like there's 6As in Brownsville, 6As in McAllen. When I was in Amarillo, at least everything was like it was Amarillo. That was the main focus. It wasn't because it's like we have 3 different major cities here. So it's kind of hard. It's like a big split market. But yeah, a lot of people, they seem to care more about the Cowboys, Texans, national sports as it is. So we try to focus on that. And that's what people like to talk in RE about, so we might as well talk about those.
From what you've like done over this past, month or so, or during the coronavirus, are there things that you and your other sports guy have kind of looked at, like, hey, we could utilize that in the future more, like whether it's Zoom or just how you do interviews from home or different, just putting together stuff? Have there been some things you're like, hey, we need to use that more in the future?
I think Zoom has kind of opened our eyes to if we really can't get with somebody for an interview, it is an option. And it's like not a terrible thing to interview people on as long as you can get them to set up their camera to where it looks okay. But then otherwise, I think we're actually going to try to continue the Sofa Sports segment that we're doing because, I mean, it gets like around 60,000 views for a 30-minute show on Facebook. And so that's something that could easily sell for like our advertising department. Come football season, we could switch it kind of more to like a studio sports segment where we're in the studio before Friday night football going over the games of the night and stuff that had happened that week and just kind of, oh, hi buddy, and just kind of switch it to like that kind of thing instead of he's about to play in the blind.
He's on the move there.
Yeah. It's a little predator.
I love it. Wow.
But yeah, so we'll probably use that going forward. So that should be good. And we were trying to think about doing like some kind of podcast. And I think this kind of helped us see like, oh, this would be a good format for it. A little 30, 40 minute podcast on every Friday or something that we also record and do on Facebook Live. That could be pretty cool.